News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Erica Herskowitz. The holiday-shortened week kicked off with gains amid a broad advance that saw a continuation of the bullish momentum on Wall Street. All three major averages closed ahead around 0.5%. The Dow added 228 points. The Nasdaq gained 121. The S&P up 44. The 10-year Treasury yield is at 4.16%. The 2-year Treasury yield is at 3.50%. Shares in Warner Brothers Discovery closed ahead nearly 1%. This after we heard from two of the players hoping to take over the media and entertainment company. Paramount Skydance amended its bid for Warner Brothers Discovery as it seeks to beat out a rival bid from Netflix. Paramount is offering a personal financial guarantee from Oracle chairman Larry Ellison of $40.4 billion. It also offered to increase its regulatory reverse termination fee. We get more from Bloomberg's Matthew Monks.
Contrast this on the other side, what you see Netflix doing, right? So they came out and they refinanced their $59 billion bridge loan, or $25 billion of that. They're doing a very plain vanilla thing, right? You know, refinancing a very large bridge loan. But the optics of that is saying, hey, listen, our money's locked down. It's all good. Whereas the Ellisons are out there saying, no, our bid's still real.
That's Bloomberg's Matthew Monks. The Trump administration has ordered dozens of U.S. ambassadors to step down, a move that will leave embassies abroad without Senate-confirmed leadership. The recall affects career diplomats who were named to their jobs under former President Biden and were told to depart in the next few weeks. The American Foreign Service Association says the recall sends a dangerous message and undermines U.S. credibility abroad as it prioritizes political loyalty over experience and oath to the Constitution. Bank of America President Brian Moynihan tells Bloomberg's David Westin the firm is predicting a strong economy next year with expected growth of 2.4%, up from about 2% this year. He says AI spending will have a big impact.
I think that's part why the reason we feel constructive for next year. We think AI spending continues. We think there's benefits to the American taxpayer from tax rebates, lower taxes due to the tax bill going through and being effective for next year. And we think the expensing and other bonuses for businesses are good. So all that leads to our confidence that we go from basically a 2% type of growth level this year, plus or minus up to 2.4%.
Moynihan also addressed the Trump administration's immigration policy and its effects on small business.
That issue, I think, is straightening out as the precision of the work on immigration policy continues through. And that was probably is more on the minds this year. As that settles in and the trade policies have settled in during the course of the summer, I think they're feeling better about understanding them. And they still have to make some adjustments, but they're feeling better about understanding them.
Hear more from Bank of America President Brian Moynihan on the Bloomberg Talks podcast. A car bomb killed a Russian general today, the third such killing of a senior military officer in a year. Investigators say Ukraine may be behind the attack. Ukraine hasn't commented. This comes as U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff said Trump administration officials held productive and constructive meetings with Ukrainian and European counterparts in Florida as part of efforts to end Russia's war. The U.S. is pursuing a third oil vessel off the Venezuelan coast as it ramps up a blockade of sanctioned crude that began earlier this month. Bloomberg's Laura Davison has more from Washington.
This really shows that the U.S., is looking to choke off economic lifelines to Venezuela. The calculation here is that the world oil market will be able to ride this out. The Venezuela supply only represents about 1% of demand. But we've really seen here that, in addition to the boat attacks, now the oil tankers seem to be the key focus for the U.S. military.
Bloomberg's Laura Davison reports China is calling the blockade a violation of international law. Venezuela ships most of its crude to China to intermediaries via so-called dark tanker fleets. President Trump is scheduled to make an announcement late this afternoon with the Secretaries of Defense and the Navy. Tesla doors have been the subject of complaints to U.S. regulators on social media and in legal filings after incidents involving doors that wouldn't open. A Bloomberg investigation turned up at least 15 deaths in a dozen incidents over the past decade in which occupants or rescuers were unable to open the doors of a Tesla Model Y vehicle that had crashed and caught on fire. The U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has opened a defect investigation. Alphabet has agreed to buy clean energy developer Intersect Power for $4.75 billion in cash, plus its existing debt, marking one of the largest deals by the tech giant in its push to dramatically expand its data center footprint to power AI. Sources tell Bloomberg Meta Platforms Threads will launch podcast previews, or the ability to upload snippets of shows that play directly in user feeds. It's part of a broader effort to encourage podcasters and their fans to spend more time on the social network. Federal Reserve Governor Stephen Miron says the U.S. central bank risks sparking a recession unless it continues lowering interest rates next year. Miron was a guest on Bloomberg Television.
So I don't see a recession in the near term, in part because we are adjusting our policy rate by lowering it, which is appropriate. My view, as I've described, is that a variety of shocks that hit the economy, including changes to the population growth rate due to changes in the border policy, have pushed what we call the neutral rate down, and that policy needs to adjust downward to reflect that downward shift in neutral. If we don't adjust policy down, then I think that we do run risks of rising recessions.
Federal Governor Stephen Miron added, rising unemployment should push federal officials to continue cutting rates. Hear more from Miron on the Bloomberg Talks podcast. That's news when you want it. With Bloomberg News Now, I'm Erica Herskowitz, and this is Bloomberg.